The queen of Northwood High was going to get me killed, and it was all happening under a desk. 3 months before graduation, I was dozing off in calculus, my right hand slipping from my lap. It landed with a soft, definitive thud on the nylon-wrapped thigh of my desk partner, Sophia Wallace. A jolt sharp as a taser shot through me. I was about to yank my hand back and start groveling, but she didn't move. Instead, she leaned closer, her warm breath ghosting against my ear. Her voice was a whisper, a thread of sound. "Don't stop," she whispered. "Please." I froze, my entire nervous system crashing. Holy, was this the same Sophia Wallace? The untouchable Ice Queen who communicated mainly through glares and whose personality seemed programmed by a hostile AI. Then, a flicker of light from the corner of my eye. Her phone, hidden in her lap, lit up, and as I read the message on the screen, I realized I was in the middle of a minefield, and I had no choice but to walk through it. "Leo, wake up." Sophia's voice, sharp as ice chips, shattered my dream. I jolted awake, a line of drool millimeters from my worksheet. Crap, goddamn calculus. I rubbed my eyes, ready to mumble a thank you, when my right hand slid off the edge of my desk and landed on something warm and impossibly smooth. My body went rigid, my brain short-circuited. The texture, even through the thin fabric of her leggings, was unmistakable. I had just touched Sophia Wallace's thigh. I'm toast. This was Sophia Wallace, the reigning monarch of Northwood High, a permanent fixture at the top of every gossip poll. The line of guys trying to ask her out probably stretched from the gym to the student parking lot. Her family was loaded. Her GPA was stratospheric, and her personality was legendarily frosty. She'd supposedly never spoken more than 3 consecutive sentences to any guy. To a slacker like me, who spent most of his school day asleep, I was less than a background character. I was set dressing, and now I, the slacker, had just groped the Ice Queen's leg in the middle of class. I could already see my grim future, a stinging slap across the face, followed by a brutal welcome party in the boys' bathroom, hosted by her legion of furious admirers. I tried to snatch my hand back, but her body trembled. She didn't pull away. Instead, she shifted an inch closer. "Don't move," she hissed, her voice tight with a tremor I'd never heard before. My mind was a blue screen of death. This wasn't in the script. Then things got even weirder. She leaned in, her lips almost touching my ear, and breathed 3 words only I could hear. "Don't stop, please." The voice was soft, desperate, tinged with a pleading, almost sobbing quality that felt like a kitten's claws raking across my heart. The blood rushed to my head, and I was suddenly more awake than I'd ever been in my life. Was this some kind of elaborate setup? A new sadistic form of high school prank? Or did the untouchable Sophia Wallace have some kind of secret, very specific kink? I stiffly turned my head, tried to read her expression, but her face was buried in the crook of her arm. All I could see was the green tip of her ear and the tight line of her jaw. She was holding on barely. My mind raced with wild theories until my eyes caught the glow of her phone in her lap. The screen was on, displaying a new text message. The sender had no name, just a black skull emoji for an avatar. "Sophia, my patience is wearing thin. You have 10 minutes. Send the money where your special photos go straight to the Northwood at her photos." What special photos? Alarm bells screamed in my head. Her bizarre behavior suddenly clicked into place. A terrifying realization dawned on me. She was being blackmailed. No wonder she told me not to stop in front of some invisible enemy watching her through this text thread. She was trying to project an image of someone completely unbothered, someone who was even enjoying this. The thought left a sick feeling in my stomach. I looked at her trembling shoulders, and the image of the perfect, unflappable goddess shattered. Right now, she was just a terrified girl backed into a corner, using the only clumsy, desperate defense she could think of. I took a deep breath, pushing down my shock. My hand, instead of pulling away, gave her leg a gentle, reassuring pat. Then, under the cover of the desk, I pulled out my own phone and quickly sent her a text. "Need help, 1 second. 2, 3. Her screen went dark. No reply, but under my hand, I felt the tense muscle of her thigh relax just a little. The moment the bell rang, Sophia shot up from her seat like a startled rabbit and bolted from the classroom without a word. I watched her frantic retreat, a mix of emotions churning inside me. On her desk, her calculus worksheet lay untouched, a testament to a mind that had been a million miles away. I grabbed the paper and went after her. The hallway was a chaotic flood of students, but I spotted her immediately at the far end, huddled in the corner of the stairwell. Her back was to the crowd, her shoulders shaking with silent, suppressed sobs. I walked over and held out the worksheet. "You forgot this?" She jumped, spinning around. When she saw it was me, a flash of panic and suspicion crossed her face. She quickly wiped at her eyes, her icy mask snapping back into place. "Thanks, just leave it." "Hey," I said, not moving. I leaned against the wall next to her. "That thing back there, it wasn't on you." Sophia stiffened, her eyes darting away. "What thing? I don't know what you're talking about." "Fine," I said, pointing to the last problem on her worksheet. "Let's talk about vectors. You drew your projection line wrong. You're supposed to connect it to the focus. Use the directrix's definition." I launched into a detailed explanation of the solution. Sophia just stared at me, bewildered, as if seeing me for the first time. What are you looking at? I shrugged. Just because I sleep in class doesn't mean I don't get it. It's called strategic energy conservation. I focus on what matters. The rest, each dime. A small laugh escaped her lips. She covered it quickly, but the frost in her eyes had begun to thaw. She hesitated, then finally asked, "Why do you sleep in class?" "Because it's boring," I said. Matter of fact, I already taught myself most of this stuff. Sleeping gives my brain a chance to buffer, to ponder the deeper questions. Like what? Like, what's at the edge of the universe? What's the meaning of life? And why a girl who's in trouble would rather pretend to be enjoying a horrifying situation than just ask someone for help. My eyes met hers, my last words delivered softly, deliberately. The color drained from Sophia's face. She bit her lip, her hands twisting together in her lap until her knuckles went white. I recognized it as her nervous tic. "I'm not," she whispered, more to herself than to me. "You're not what?" I pressed gently, not being threatening, not in trouble. I pulled out my phone, brought up a screen, and showed it to her. It was a terminal window, lines of green text scrolling by before settling on an IP address. "The guy texting you is using a VPN, bouncing his IP through a few proxies," I said calmly. But the last node pinged off the cell tower, right by the school's fine arts building. Took me about 10 minutes to nail him down. Sophia's head snapped up, her eyes wide with disbelief. Who are you?" "Leo Carter," I said, pocketing my phone and giving her a wide grin. "Just your average sleep-deprived high school student who happens to know a little." Maggia looking at her stunned face. I knew her defenses were starting to crumble, and for the first time, in those eyes that were always as cool and clear as an autumn lake, I saw something different. It was a flicker of shock, confusion, and a tiny fragile glimmer of hope. "So the guy threatening you is Brendan Pierce." We were in the woods behind the school. I listened to Sophia's halting story, my brow furrowed so deep you could lose a coin in it. Brendan Pierce, Northwood's resident rich kid jackass and one of Sophia's most aggressive admirers, acted like he owned the school, always flanked by a couple of cronies, all because his dad was some tech mogul. The story was depressingly predictable. Last month, for Sophia's birthday, she and her friends went to a party. She had a couple of White Claws, got a little buzzed, and fell asleep on a couch. Brendan, who'd obviously crashed the party, found her and took a bunch of creep shots, staging them to look intimate. The photos themselves were nothing, but the angles were deceptive. With a little blurring, they could be spun into something ugly. Brendan used them to try and force Sophia to be his girlfriend. When she shot him down, he got pissed and started demanding money. "How much does he want?" I asked. $5, she whispered. "Why didn't you tell your parents?" "I can't," she said, shaking her head, her eyes welling up again. Brendan said if I told anyone, he'd Photoshop the pictures into something way worse and blast them all over the internet. Ruin my life. My parents, they have such high expectations. I can't let them down. I got it. For a golden girl like Sophia, reputation was everything. She wasn't afraid of Brendan. She was terrified of the rumors, the stares, the whispers that would follow. "Leave it to me," I said, patting my chest. What are you going to do?" She looked at me, worried. "Don't do anything crazy. Brendan is, don't worry." I gave her a mysterious smile. "I never go into a fight unprepared. Tonight, he's going to pay back everything he took with interest." My plan was simple and direct. You fight magic with magic. Brendan wanted to play dirty. I was about to show him what a real technical knockout felt like. That night, I dragged my best friend and the other half of our two-man hacker squad, Chris Chunk Miller, to the Fine Arts Building. "Leo, are you sure about this, man? We could get suspended for life," Chunk whispered, sweating bullets as he kept watch. "Relax. We're vigilantes for justice," I said, without looking up from the laptop, my fingers flying across the keyboard in the computer lab. Besides, digital ghosts don't leave fingerprints. Using the IP address I'd snagged earlier, it was child's play to lock onto Brendan's home computer. The rest was easy. I planned a keylogger, gained remote access, browsed his files, a symphony of keystrokes, and there it was. In an encrypted folder, I found the original photos. I also found his group chat logs with his buddies, filled with disgusting comments about Sophia and their plans for her. "Jesus, these scumbags are a piece of work," Chunk muttered, reading over my shoulder. "Don't worry, the show's just getting started." I downloaded a copy of everything. Then I made a bold move. I took remote control of Brendan's desktop. I drafted an anonymous email, attached all the chat logs and the original unstaged photos, and sent it to every single teacher, counselor, and administrator in the Northwood High directory. The subject line was designed for maximum impact. Formal complaint regarding student Brendan Pierce. Allegations of blackmail, extortion, and bullying. Evidence attached. After that, I wiped our digital tracks clean and gave Chunk a thumbs up. Mission accomplished. Time to go home and get some sleep. I knew that tomorrow, the social order of Northwood High was about to be turned upside down, and Brendan Pierce's reign was officially over. The next morning, the atmosphere in the homeroom was electric. Everyone was whispering, huddled in small groups. Their faces were a mixture of shock and morbid excitement. Did you hear about Brendan Pierce? Hear about it, dude. His dad got called into the principal's office first thing this morning. He looked like he was going to puke. Serve him right. They should expel that psycho. I slid into my seat. Sophia was already there. She was wearing a simple white sundress, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked radiant, a complete 180 from the terrified girl in the stairwell. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, the corners of her mouth twitching into a smile. "Thank you," she said, sliding a bottle of cold brew coffee onto my desk. Her voice was full of genuine gratitude. "All in a day's work," I said, twisting the cap and taking a long drink. The cold brew was a welcome shock to my system. Morning announcements had just begun when our homeroom teacher walked in, his face grim. The dean of students was right behind him. Brendan Pierce, Chad Stevens, Mark Riley. With me now. The names he called belonged to Brendan's usual pack of hyenas. They stood up, their faces pale, looking like they were about to face a firing squad. Brendan led the way, his face white with rage. His eyes scanned the room filled with venom before finally landing on me and Sophia. It was the look of a cornered snake. I met his gaze without flinching and even gave him a slight mocking lift of my eyebrows. He flinched. Then his glare intensified, as if he could incinerate me with his eyes alone. I knew he suspected me. So what? Without proof, he couldn't do a damn thing. The incident blew up. The school's decision came down fast. Brendan Pierce was expelled for conduct violations. His cronies all got slapped with suspensions and official warnings on their permanent records. Word was Brendan's father had to personally visit Sophia's family to apologize and cut a check for $10,000 in emotional damages. But that was all just noise for me and Sophia. Life seemed to return to normal, except some things had quietly, irrevocably changed. Sophia was no longer cold to me. She'd ask for my opinion on homework. She'd save me a slice of pizza at lunch. And when I dozed off in class, she'd poke me gently with her pen instead of snapping my name. Our relationship had entered a strange, undefined territory, like a glass of water slowly being heated, calm on the surface, but with a current swirling underneath. "Leo, are you free this weekend? I wanted to take you out to dinner." It was Friday after school. Sophia asked me with a blush creeping up her neck. It was the first time she'd ever asked me out. My heart did a backflip, but I played it cool. "Dinner? Sure, on one condition." "What condition?" I picked the place. The place I picked wasn't a fancy restaurant. It was a loud, chaotic, neon-drenched arcade downtown. When Sophia saw the flashing lights and heard the cacophony of 8-bit explosions and prize buzzers, she froze. "This is your idea of dinner?" "Yep," I said, grabbing her hand and pulling her inside. Food for the soul is still food. "Come on, let me show you the joys of us mere mortals." I bought a huge cup of tokens and proceeded to lead her on a grand tour. We started with the claw machine, moved on to the basketball shootout, and then graduated to the high-octane racing and fighting games. At first, Sophia was stiff and hesitant, but with a little encouragement, she started to let go. I showed her how to work the joystick, how to mash the buttons for a combo. When she finally beat my Rue with a flurry of kicks from Chun-Li in Street Fighter, she leaped into the air with a shriek of triumph, grabbing my arm and laughing, the high and mighty Ice Queen completely gone. In that moment, the blaring music and flashing lights faded into the background. All I could see was her brilliant, unrestrained smile. I realized she was 1,000 times more beautiful when she was laughing than when she was trying to be perfect. It was almost 9 by the time we left the arcade. My arms were full of the mountain of stuffed animals I'd won for her. She was sipping a boba tea, the flush of excitement still on her cheeks. "Have fun?" I asked. "Yeah." She nodded emphatically, her eyes sparkling like she'd swallowed a handful of stars. I've never felt so relaxed. She told me that her entire life had been lived under the weight of her parents and teachers' expectations. She had to be the best, the most perfect daughter and student. No flaws, no missteps. A place like an arcade was a forbidden planet she'd never even dreamed of visiting. "You know, being immortal is actually pretty great," she said, looking at me. "Told you," I said with a cocky grin. "Our capacity for fun is beyond your comprehension." We walked side by side, the streetlights stretching our shadows long behind us. The mood was perfect. I felt like it was time to push things forward. "Sophia," I cleared my throat, about to speak when my phone buzzed rudely in my pocket. It was Chunk Leo. "Dude, it's bad. It's really bad." His voice was frantic. "You need to check the Northwood Natter like right now." A rock dropped in my stomach. I had a very bad feeling about this. I quickly pulled out my phone and navigated to the school's notorious gossip site. A post bolded and highlighted in red sat at the very top of the page. The headline was pure poison. Shocking. Northwood's Ice Queen, Sophia Wallace's perfect image, shatters. Is she paying slacker Leo Carter for his services? Exclusive photos from their date inside. Below the headline were a series of photos from the arcade. There was one of me leaning close to her, teaching her the game controls. One of her grabbing my arm in excitement after she won. One of us walking together, my arms full of stuffed animals. The angles were intentionally malicious, each one framed to imply a sleazy, transactional intimacy. The poster was a newly registered anonymous account, but the style, the sheer viciousness, it reeked of a familiar brand of loser. Brendan Pierce. I knew it instantly. He'd been expelled, and this was his pathetic, vindictive comeback. He couldn't use the old photos of Sophia, so he was targeting both of us, trying to drag us down into the mud with him. The comment section was already a cesspool. WTF. No way. Sophia is into that burnout. Leo, you didn't read the headline, dumbass. She's paying him. He must have some dirt on her. Damn, the secrets of the 1%. Guess this is how the rich girl slacker thing works. I was shaking with rage, staring at the venom on the screen. I looked over at Sophia. She'd seen it, too. Her face was ashen. The boba tea slipped from her grasp and splattered on the sidewalk. She looked like she was about to collapse. Don't be scared. I grabbed her hand. It was ice cold and trembling. I looked her straight in the eye and said, one word at a time. I'll handle this. I promise. Leo, I'm so sorry. I got you into trouble again. Sophia was quiet and withdrawn the whole way home. Don't be ridiculous, I said, squeezing her hand, trying to transfer some of my warmth to her. This isn't about you. This is about him. That son of a is coming after me. But no, but ... I cut her off. The truth is the truth. We can't control what idiots say. All we can do is slap them in the face with the facts. I sounded confident, but I knew this was trickier than last time. Last time, Brendan was clearly in the wrong, and we had the receipts. This time, he was smarter. He was using a slanderous narrative, twisting real photos into lies. That kind of rumor is the hardest to fight. The more you deny it, the guiltier you look. So, what's your plan? Sophia asked, her voice laced with worry. The master has his methods, I said, giving her a mysterious wink. Just wait. Tomorrow's show is going to be epic. After I dropped Sophia off, I immediately called Chunk. Chunk, my man, do me a favor. You still have that little care package we downloaded from Brendan's computer. You know it, bro. Backed it up in triplicate. Perfect. I need you to go through it and pull out every piece of dirt you can find on Brendan and his crew. I want the hard stuff. Photo, evidence, video, stuff that will absolutely destroy him. Consider it done. Captain, I'm on it. After hanging up, I logged onto my own computer and started my own work. Did Brendan really think an anonymous account could hide him from me? So not. As far as I was concerned, if you've touched the internet, you're standing naked in my living room. It took me less than 30 minutes to pinpoint his location again. And this time, I went further. I piggybacked off his connection, cracked his social media, and dug up a veritable archaeological record of every scummy thing he'd ever done. Looking at the neatly compiled folder on my desktop titled Brendan Pierce, A Complete History of Douche, I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Oh, Brendan, I murmured to the screen. You just had to come back for more, didn't you? They say the internet never forgets. Well, neither do I. The next day, just as the gossip about me and Sophia on the Northwood Natter reached its fever pitch, a new post appeared. It landed with the force of a tactical nuke. The title was simple and brutal. Let's talk about the real Brendan Pierce. The post contained no commentary, just a long scrolling list of evidence. Video of him bullying freshmen, screenshots of him cheating on exams, leaked DMs of him bragging about his dad getting him out of a DUI, and a detailed timeline with receipts of him cheating on 3 different girls simultaneously. Each entry was a kill shot. At the very end of the post, I added a personal note. Some people are so covered in their own filth, their only goal is to drag others down with them. Brendan, don't think you're safe behind your keyboard. Your slanderous posts against Sophia Wallace and Leo Carter have already been reported to the police. A little friendly advice. Know when to quit, because next time the things we release might be even more interesting. The post detonated the forum. Public opinion didn't just shift, it did a violent 180 spin. Holy crap, the plot twist of a century. Brendan is a monster. I knew it. No way Sophia would be with Leo. It had to be that psycho Brendan pulling strings. My heart goes out to Sophia and Leo. Can't believe they had to deal with this crap. Yes, report him. People like that need to face real consequences for The original post attacking us was quickly buried under an avalanche of angry comments. The tide had turned completely. I sat in my seat, scrolling through my phone, a deep sense of satisfaction washing over me. This was the effect I wanted. The best way to kill a rumor isn't to deny it. It's to drop a truth bomb so massive it blows the rumor off the map. Sophia, sitting next to me, was looking at her own phone. Her eyes were red, but she was smiling. Leo, you're just ... She looked at me, speechless for a moment, before finally breathing out 2 words. So cool. Just your friendly neighborhood slacker, I said, trying for a cocky hair flip and failing. But, she asked, a hint of worry returning. Are we really reporting him to the police? Absolutely. I nodded. You can't go soft on people like this. We're not just reporting him, we're filing a formal complaint for defamation. This time, he gets a lesson he'll never forget. I wasn't kidding. Before I even made the post, I had already compiled all the evidence and filed an online report with the local police department. I had a feeling that pretty soon a couple of officers would be paying Brendan a visit to ask him a few questions. The whole affair ended up being an impromptu civics lesson for our entire grade. Our homeroom teacher dedicated a whole period to discussing the dangers of cyberbullying and slander. The internet is not a lawless wasteland. Your words have consequences. Every irresponsible comment can cause irreparable harm. We must all strive to be citizens with a strong moral compass and the ability to think critically. Do not create rumors. Do not believe rumors. Do not spread rumors. He was giving a passionate speech, but my eyelids were like lead weights. I'd pulled an all-nighter working, and I was exhausted. Just as I was about to drift off, I felt something being slid onto my desk. I opened my eyes. It was a lunch container neatly wrapped. I opened it. Inside was a serving of homemade pasta salad with a perfectly carved little heart made from a red bell pepper sitting on top. A warmth spread through my chest. I mouthed the words, "Thank you," to her. She blushed and quickly turned away, pretending to be engrossed in the lecture. But the slight curve of her smiling lips gave her away. Sunlight streamed through the window, bathing us in a warm glow. I suddenly thought that maybe, just maybe, this whole high school thing wasn't so bad after all. The Brendan Pierce saga ended with his parents once again showing up to apologize. This time with a much larger check for defamation and emotional distress. On top of that, Brendan was charged and sentenced to 15 days in juvenile detention, the maximum for his offense. When he got out, all the fight was gone from him. His online presence vanished completely, and Sophia and I, forged in the fires of mutual crisis, grew closer than ever. We became the school's unofficial couple. We never defined it, never had to talk, but everyone just knew. We walked to school together, left together, studied in the library together, and ate lunch together. She'd save me a seat. I'd carry her tray. She'd take notes for me when I fell asleep. I'd break down the most complex physics problems for her in the simplest terms. The feeling was new and wonderful. It was like drinking a glass of warm water. Simple, comforting, and exactly what I needed. In the final month before finals and college decisions, the tension at school was thick enough to cut with a knife. Everyone was a machine running on caffeine and anxiety, grinding through practice tests. Even a professional slacker like me started limiting my sleep to 7 hours a night. Sophia was in overdrive. She was already a genius, but now she was pushing herself to the absolute limit. I'd see her late at night studying in the dorm hallway under the dim fluorescent lights, and it made my heart ache. "Hey, superstar, you keep this up. You're going to achieve academic nirvana and physically ascend from this mortal plane," I said, cornering her in the stairwell after a late-night study session. "I have to. It's the final stretch. I don't want to have any regrets," she said, rubbing her tired eyes. "Ever hear of work-life balance?" I pulled a pair of movie tickets from behind my back and dangled them in front of her. "Come on. Your friendly neighborhood burnout is prescribing a mandatory relaxation session, but I have a whole packet of practice tests to finish." "Forget the tests," I said, snatching the packet and stuffing it into her backpack. "Tonight, your only assignment is to watch a movie with me." I half-dragged, half-convinced her to the theater. The movie was some popular coming-of-age film about, ironically, the pressures of senior year. About halfway through, I felt a weight on my shoulder. I turned my head. Sophia was leaning against me, fast asleep. She was sleeping deeply, her long eyelashes casting little shadows on her cheeks. Her steady, even breaths tickled my neck. I didn't dare move. I sat there, stiff as a board, letting her rest. I have no idea what happened in the rest of the movie. My entire world had shrunk to the warm, trusting weight of the girl on my shoulder. I thought back to our first close encounter that day in class. She looked like she was sleeping then too, but inside, she was terrified. Now here she was, completely unguarded, sleeping soundly on my shoulder. The feeling of being trusted so completely made my heart swell until it filled my entire chest. The movie ended, and the house lights came up. I gently patted her cheek. "Hey, wake up. The credits are rolling." She blinked her eyes open, saw she was on my shoulder, and her face went crimson. "How did I fall asleep?" "Because you're exhausted," I said, gently brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "Sophia, don't put so much pressure on yourself. You're already amazing. In my eyes, you're the best." My voice was quiet, but in the near-empty theater, it echoed. Sophia went still. She looked up at me, her beautiful eyes glistening, looking like they held the entire night sky. I knew it was time. "Sophia," I took a deep breath, holding her gaze. "I like you, not because you're the queen of the school, not because you have a 4.0, and not just because you're beautiful. I like you because you're the girl who secretly takes notes from me when I'm asleep, because you're the girl who wordlessly hands me a cold drink after practice, because you're the girl who chose to trust me when you were in trouble. I like the girl who screams with laughter after winning an arcade game, the girl who gets emotional over a movie, the strong, kind, brilliant, real girl I got to know. So, Sophia Wallace, will you be my girlfriend?" The words hung in the air. My palms were sweating. Sophia didn't speak. She just stared at me. Her eyes grew redder and redder until big, fat tears broke free and rolled down her cheeks. I panicked. Hey, whoa, don't cry. If you don't want to, it's cool. Just forget, I said. Before I could finish, she launched herself at me, wrapping her arms around my neck in a fierce hug. Yes, she sobbed into my shoulder, her voice muffled. Leo, you idiot. I've been waiting for you to say that for so long. I froze for a second, then a wave of pure joy crashed over me. I hugged her back, holding her tight, like I could somehow absorb her into my very being. Me too, I whispered into her hair. Me too. We talked for a long time that night about our first impressions, the accident in class, and all the chaos we'd weathered together. We realized the seeds of whatever this was had been planted long ago. Quietly, without either of us noticing, finals came and went in a blur. We walked into the testing center together, giving each other one last hug for good luck. The moment we walked out of our last exam, the sun was shining. We looked at each other and smiled, both of us seeing the same bright future reflected in the other's eyes. The scores came back. We both crushed it. I did better than I ever expected and got into my dream computer science program. Sophia, unsurprisingly, was accepted to the best university in the state. Luckily, they were in the same city. On move-in day, I went with Sophia to her new campus. Her dorm room was nice, a quad with its own bathroom and a little balcony. I helped her make her bed and unpack her boxers, sweating through my t-shirt. Thanks for your hard work, Leo, Sophia said, handing me a bottle of water, her eyes crinkling in a smile. All part of the boyfriend's service package, I said, chugging half the bottle. Once she was all settled, we walked hand in hand across the beautiful, sprawling campus. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the lake. Leo, Sophia said, stopping and turning to me. Do you remember the first time? You know that time? Which time? I teased. You know, the leg-touching time, she said, half embarrassed, half annoyed, giving my arm a light punch. Oh, I drew out the sound. That time, of course, I remember. Probably the single most terrifying moment of my entire life. You got off easy, she muttered. Yeah, I said, smiling as I pulled her into my arms. I got the deal of a lifetime. I leaned down and kissed her. Her lips were as soft and sweet as I had imagined. Under the setting sun, our shadows stretched long behind us, merging into one. And I realized that the afternoon I accidentally touched the untouchable girl's leg wasn't an accident at all. It was the luckiest, most fateful moment of my entire life.